Yields back, Mr. Byrne.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, it's hard to remember all of us up here. I want to just remind you, I'm a former member of the Alabama State Board of Education for 8 years. All 4 of my children attended the public schools of the state of Alabama. All 4 of them attended a magnet school in the city of Mobile, large urban school system. So I have a great deal of interest in this, and I have very high expectations for the performance of our public schools with regard to every student. When you were here before the committee in February, I asked about the phrase in the new law, quote, consistently underperforming, and whose responsibility it is to define the term. I also wrote a follow-up letter on March the 1st that you responded to on June the 17th, 3.5 months later. Now, in your response, you pointed to the proposed rulemaking. When you were here as before, you did not really answer my question, and after reading your proposal, I think I understand why. But when you were here before, you did say to me, quote, I am committed to working with this committee, committed to ensuring that our implementation is consistent with the letter of the law, close quote. I would say to you, Mr. Secretary, if you're committed to working with the committee, taking 3.5 months to answer my letter is not consistent with that remark. The letter of the law says the meaning of, quote, consistently underperforming, close quote, is to be determined by the states. The letter of the law also says that you are prohibited from prescribing, quote, the specific methodology used by states to meaningfully differentiate or identify schools under this part, close quote. Now, taken together, the law prohibits you from constraining state flexibility around the definition of, quote, consistently underperforming, yet your proposal does exactly that. So help me. Why would you violate the statute in your proposed rulemaking and give a definition when the Every Student Succeeds Act prohibits you from doing so and requires you to leave that up to the states? Why did you do that?
To be clear, in our regulation, consistently underperforming is defined by the state using goals and targets that the state would set. Again, our role, we believe, is to try to gather feedback and input, which we did, and based on that input, we put forward a proposed rule that is now out for comment. But we were careful to comply with the letter of the law, and consistently underperforming is left to states to define with their own goals and targets.
Well, I'd ask you to go back and look at your rule because I think it does prescribe. And I think you're setting yourself and the department up for a lawsuit that you will lose. I don't know who's going to file it, but somebody will. And you talked earlier about legislative intent. I'm giving you legislative intent right now. You need to go back and look at your rule because it clearly violates the letter of the statute in prescribing. It needs to totally leave this up to the states. And in any way that you prescribe to the states how they make that determination, you are clearly in violation of the statute. So I'm asking you to go back and look at your rule, hear what a member of this committee that's a strong proponent of this law is telling you. And I think if you do, and you're a smart man and you're a fair man, if you go back and look at it fairly, you're going to see that you are in violation of the statute. I don't want you to be in violation of the statute. I don't think you want to be in violation of the statute. But we have a consistent pattern of this administration in putting out regulations after they've been warned that you're in violation of the statute as written by Congress. And then somebody has to file a lawsuit. And here's what happens when a lawsuit's filed. You spend a lot of resources, the people that file the lawsuit spend a lot of resources, and every penny of those resources is a penny that didn't go to educating a child. And I want, and I think you want, every resource we can bring to bear to educate children in this country. Somebody deep in the bowels of your department or some smart lawyer that's working with you is taking you in a direction that the statute clearly prohibits you from going. And as someone that wants this to work, I'm telling you, go back and look at your rule because I think you're in violation of the statute.
Appreciate the feedback. We will look at the rule, but again, I just want to underscore that states will set the goals and targets from which the determination of consistently underperforming will be made.
And Mr.
That,
Secretary,
we
we're going to
believe, is
hold you to
consistent
that.
with the law.
We're going to hold you to that. And I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Mr. Rokita.
Thank the chairman.